It was a quiet morning, the kind where the sun's rays barely kissed the earth, and the birds outside whispered secrets to one another. Emma, a single mom, sat in the kitchen, sipping her coffee, her gaze distant. Her daughter, Lily, played with her dolls at the table, oblivious to the world outside. Emma watched her, her heart swelling with love, but a quiet sorrow lingered in the air. The absence of a father, the emptiness in the household that had become a part of their lives since the day Lily was born, was something Emma tried to ignore. But there were days when the weight of it became too much to bear. Lily was everything to Emma. She was her strength, her reason for waking up each day, but there were still questions. So many unanswered questions. Questions Emma had kept buried for years, questions that only the silence of the night could awaken. Why had he left? Why didn't he want to be part of their lives? But she never spoke of him. Lily never asked. The memories of that brief encounter were fading, the ones that had haunted Emma, and maybe, in time, they'd fade from Lily's heart too. Or so she thought. One evening, as Emma tucked Lily into bed, a strange, unfamiliar feeling seemed to hang in the air. A low growl echoed from outside the window. It was distant at first, but then, like a ripple in the air, it grew closer, more menacing. Emma paused, her breath catching in her throat. Was someone out there? Her heart raced as she stood still, listening. It was gone as quickly as it had come, and Lily's peaceful slumber never stirred. Days passed, but the sensation didn't fade. There were odd occurrences. Lily, who had always been a quiet child, started acting strangely. She would stare out the window, her eyes wide, tracking something invisible in the trees. At night, she would sometimes wake up, murmuring in her sleep, as if she was speaking to someone, or something. Emma dismissed it as nothing more than the overactive imagination of a child, but deep down, she couldn't shake the feeling that something was amiss. Then, there was the way Lily would occasionally stand taller, straighter, as if sensing something no one else could. And Emma noticed the way her daughter's eyes would flash, a fleeting, wild look that seemed so unlike the sweet girl she had known her whole life. But Emma brushed it off. Lily had always been full of surprises, right? It wasn't until one stormy night, when the wind howled through the trees and the sky seemed to scream with lightning, that everything changed. The air inside their home felt heavy, thick, as if it was pressing in on Emma. She stood near the window, staring out into the darkened world, when a shadow caught her eye. Someone, was standing just outside the perimeter of their yard. Emma's heart skipped a beat. Her instinct screamed at her to go check, to make sure Lily was safe, but as she reached the door, she froze. Lily was already standing there, staring out the window, her eyes wide with a strange, knowing look. And that was when it hit Emma. A memory, long buried in her mind, resurfaced, the night she had met someone who had seemed different. Someone whose eyes had held a strange, wild gleam. A man who had come into her life for a fleeting moment, but whose presence she could never forget. A man whose scent, his touch, had lingered in her memory, even after he had disappeared. Could it be? Was it possible? Had Lily inherited something from her father? Emma's mind raced, and panic gripped her heart. This was impossible, wasn't it? She didn't believe in the myths and legends of shifters and creatures of the night. But there it was, the undeniable truth staring back at her. As Emma turned, her gaze fell on Lily, and a wave of realization hit her like a crashing wave. Emma had raised her alone, never knowing the full truth of what Lily's father was, but now, it was becoming clear. Her daughter wasn't just a little girl. She was a living testament to a legacy Emma had never even known existed. The growls, the strange behaviors, the odd sense of unease that had been creeping into their lives, it all started to make sense. But it was far from over. In fact, it was only just beginning. As Emma turned back toward the window, the shadow outside was gone. But she knew, deep down, that whatever was coming next would change everything. And that's when she heard it, the softest whisper, almost like a breeze, but with a hint of something far more primal. "Mom," Lily said, her voice low but filled with a strange sense of urgency. "He's coming." Emma froze, her heart racing. Could it be? Could her daughter really know something she didn't? The air seemed to crackle with energy as a new chapter in their lives was about to begin, one that would reveal secrets that had been hidden for far too long. The Alpha's return. The night hung heavy, as if the entire world had paused, holding its breath. Emma stood frozen, her mind spinning in disbelief, trying to make sense of what had just happened. Her daughter, standing tall, her wide eyes focused on something invisible, whispered again, "He's coming." Emma's heart pounded in her chest, and she could feel a cold sweat beginning to form at the back of her neck. She turned slowly, looking at Lily. What did she mean? Who was coming? But Lily didn't answer. Instead, she simply walked over to the door, her small hand resting on the handle, her eyes still fixed on the window. Emma followed her, the strange pull of her daughter's actions drawing her closer. She opened the door slowly, her breath catching in her throat, and stepped into the night. The wind howled through the trees, the branches bending and creaking under its pressure. In the distance, Emma could hear the sound of something. Something that wasn't quite human, something deep and primal. The hairs on the back of her neck stood up, and her instincts screamed at her to run, to take Lily and hide. But instead, she stood there, paralyzed by a mixture of fear and curiosity. Lily, on the other hand, seemed calm, as if she had been expecting this moment for a long time. She stood at the edge of the porch, gazing into the dark woods, waiting for something or someone to emerge. Minutes passed like hours. Emma's breath was shallow, her mind racing through memories, trying to recall anything that could explain this. And then it happened. From the woods came a figure, a man, tall and imposing, walking with a quiet but undeniable power. His presence seemed to fill the air, making it thick with energy. He stepped out from the shadows, and the world seemed to stop. His eyes glowed a strange shade of amber, almost like the moonlight had reflected off them in a way that made them shimmer with an otherworldly light. Emma's heart dropped into her stomach. She knew this man, she had never forgotten him, even though he had vanished without a trace all those years ago. He was the man who had once held her in his arms, the one who had whispered promises that felt too real to be lies, the one who had left without a word, without a reason. And now, here he was, standing before her, as though time itself had bent to allow him to return. Lily stepped forward, her small feet light on the grass, her eyes locked with the stranger's. Emma's breath caught in her throat as she realized the connection, the bond, that was forming between them. It was more than a mere glance, more than a fleeting recognition. It was something deep, something ancient. The man, no, he wasn't just a man, not anymore. His amber eyes softened as he looked at Lily. And then, with a voice that seemed to rumble from deep within him, he spoke. "Lily," he said, his voice low and rich, filled with a deep, haunting warmth. "It's time." Emma's mind reeled. What did he mean? What was happening? The man's gaze shifted to Emma, and she took a step back, her body instinctively pulling away from the overwhelming power that radiated from him. His presence seemed to take up the entire space, as though he were more than a person, more than something human. He was something ancient, something that shouldn't exist in the world of ordinary people. "I didn't want this for her," the man said, his voice filled with regret. "But she's part of something much bigger than both of us. And now, there's no turning back." Emma's mind raced as the realization hit her. The growls. The strange behavior. The wild look in Lily's eyes. It was all connected to him, to this man standing in front of her. And then, she understood. This wasn't just a man. He was an alpha shifter, a being with the ability to transform, to become something beyond human, something connected to the primal forces of nature itself. And Lily. Lily was his daughter. Their daughter. Lily's eyes locked with Emma's, her face calm but filled with something more, something older, something powerful. And in that moment, Emma realized the truth. Lily wasn't just a little girl. She was the heir to a legacy that had been hidden from her for years. And now, the time had come for that legacy to reveal itself. The man stepped closer, his eyes never leaving Emma's. "I should have told you. I should have been there for you both. But I couldn't risk drawing attention to what we are." His voice faltered for just a moment. "I had to leave, for your safety. For hers." Emma could barely breathe. Her head spun as the man's words hit her like a storm. She wanted to scream, to demand answers, but the words wouldn't come. Instead, she could only stare at him, trying to make sense of the whirlwind of emotions that were flooding her mind. And then, without warning, a loud, piercing howl echoed through the woods, sending shivers down Emma's spine. It was answered by another howl, then another, until the night was filled with a chorus of wild, primal calls. Emma's heart raced as she realized what was happening. Something was coming, something dangerous, something that would change everything. The man's face hardened, his expression shifting to one of resolve. "They're here." The tension in the air thickened as the ground seemed to tremble beneath their feet. Emma didn't know what to do, didn't know how to protect her daughter from the dangers that were closing in. She only knew one thing: whatever was coming, it was going to test the strength of their bond. And it would test Emma's courage in ways she had never imagined. Lily stood tall, her eyes glowing with a strange, ethereal light, and Emma realized that this wasn't just about protecting her child anymore. This was about facing the unknown, about embracing a future that neither of them could have ever anticipated. As the Alpha's form began to shift, his muscles rippling, his eyes burning bright with the wild power of the beast inside him, Emma knew that their lives would never be the same again. The awakening. The ground vibrated beneath Emma's feet, the earth seeming to tremble with the power of the Alpha's transformation. The air around them grew heavy, charged with an energy Emma had never felt before, primal, raw, and ancient. She could feel the wind shift, the trees groaning as though they too were aware of the storm approaching. And as the Alpha's form began to morph, Emma took a step back, clutching Lily's hand, her heart pounding in her chest. In a split second, the man before her was no longer just a man. His body expanded, muscles rippling beneath his skin, his bones elongating and reshaping with a sickening, inhuman crack. His face twisted into something more beast than human, and his amber eyes burned brighter, reflecting the fire within him. His teeth grew sharper, his claws extending from his fingers like deadly weapons, and in the blink of an eye, he was no longer standing, he was towering, a massive wolf-like creature, his fur glistening under the moonlight, his form both terrifying and awe-inspiring. Emma gasped, her body frozen in shock. She had always thought the stories were just that, stories. Myths, legends passed down through generations. But now, standing before her, was the undeniable truth. This was no fairy tale. This was reality. And then, there was Lily, her daughter, standing there, as if nothing had changed. Her eyes were wide with a mixture of fear and wonder, but she wasn't afraid. No, Lily was calm, her little hand still clasped in Emma's, her feet planted firmly on the ground. The Alpha, this incredible creature that now stood before them, let out a deep, guttural growl, his voice a low rumble that reverberated through the air. It was a warning. A challenge. Emma didn't know what to make of it. Was this a protector or a predator? Lily stepped forward, her face determined, her expression changing. The light in her eyes shifted, becoming brighter, almost glowing. She was no longer the little girl who played with dolls and sang nursery rhymes. No, this was someone different, someone who shared the same fierce strength that radiated from the creature before them. Emma could feel it in the air. This was the moment when everything would change. "Lily," Emma whispered, her voice trembling. "What is happening?" But Lily didn't answer. She didn't need to. Instead, she turned to face the Alpha, her small body radiating the same power that pulsed through his massive form. A strange, magnetic connection between them sparked, as if the very fabric of the world had aligned their destinies. The Alpha lowered his head, his gaze softening, as if acknowledging Lily for the first time, truly acknowledging her. And in that moment, Emma saw it. She saw the truth in her daughter's eyes. The legacy, the bloodline, the power of the Alpha coursing through her veins. This wasn't just about the Alpha or Emma, it was about Lily. She was the heir to a lineage of warriors, protectors, and shifters. A legacy that had been hidden, buried, to keep her safe. But the time for hiding was over. The Alpha straightened, his massive form looming above them, and he spoke again, this time, his voice deeper, even more commanding. She is ready. The words hung in the air like a declaration. Emma could barely comprehend them, but she felt their weight. Ready for what? To become like him? To inherit this power? To transform into something she had only ever heard of in myths? Lily's eyes met Emma's once again, her expression serene but strong. "I'm ready, Mom," she said quietly. And in those 3 words, Emma understood. The time had come for Lily to embrace her true self. She was no longer just a little girl. She was something far more powerful, far more significant. She was a shifter, an Alpha in the making. Emma looked up at the Alpha, her heart heavy with the knowledge that she had kept her daughter from this truth for so long. But now, as the night grew darker and the air thickened with anticipation, Emma knew that the world they had known was about to change forever. Lily would no longer be hidden from her destiny. And neither would Emma. The Alpha took a step forward, his massive form casting a long shadow over them. "The time is near," he said, his voice a mix of authority and tenderness. "She will need to learn how to control it, how to harness the power within her. The world will not wait for her to be ready. But she will be. She has to be." Emma's heart clenched with both fear and pride. Her daughter, the little girl she had raised on her own, was now stepping into a world she had never prepared her for. A world of power, danger, and ancient secrets. A world that Emma had always kept hidden from her. "Mom," Lily said softly, her voice carrying a sense of quiet strength. "I know you're scared. But I need you to trust me. This is who I am." Emma nodded slowly, the weight of her daughter's words sinking in. She had always trusted Lily, always believed in her. But this was beyond anything she had ever imagined. It wasn't just about protecting her daughter anymore. It was about standing beside her as she faced a new and dangerous world. The Alpha's form began to shift again, slowly returning to the man he had once been. He stood tall, towering over them, his amber eyes glowing in the dim light. "I will train her. I will show her the way. But it is not just about strength, Lily," he said, his voice gentle now, "it's about control. You cannot let the power consume you." Lily nodded, a fierce determination in her eyes. "I understand." Emma watched as the Alpha stepped back, his eyes never leaving Lily's. There was a bond between them, a connection Emma couldn't fully comprehend, but she knew one thing for certain. This was no longer just her fight. It was Lily's. And Emma had to let her go, to let her step into the world that had always been waiting for her. As the night deepened, Emma made a silent promise to herself. She would protect her daughter, no matter what. But she would also stand by her, supporting her as she embraced the power within her. The Alpha turned, his massive form disappearing into the shadows of the woods. "We will begin at dawn," he called over his shoulder. "The journey has only just begun." And with that, the world around Emma and Lily shifted, as if the very earth itself was preparing for the storm that was coming. A storm that would test everything they thought they knew about the world, and about themselves. The beginning of the transformation. The night passed in uneasy silence, broken only by the distant calls of the wild. Emma lay awake in bed, her thoughts racing as she stared at the ceiling, the weight of everything pressing down on her chest. Her mind wouldn't stop spinning. Her daughter, her little girl, was no longer the innocent child she had known. No, Lily was something else now. Something powerful, something dangerous. And Emma didn't know how to keep her safe. Lily had fallen asleep in her room, but Emma knew that sleep didn't come easily for her anymore. There was a tension in the air that neither of them could shake off. The Alpha's words had lingered long after he had left them standing in the yard. The time was near. The time for Lily to learn control. The time for her to embrace her true identity. But what did that mean? Emma had no answers, just 1,000 questions, all of them dark and uncertain. What kind of world had she brought Lily into? What kind of future awaited them? Emma had always tried to protect her daughter, to give her a life free from danger. But now, she realized, the danger had always been there. It had been hidden, buried deep, just waiting for the right moment to surface. The Alpha's promise to train Lily felt like both a blessing and a curse. He would teach her how to control the power within her, how to become what she was always meant to be. But would that power be enough to protect her? Would Lily be able to control it, or would it consume her? As dawn's first light crept through the curtains, Emma stood by the window, watching as the world slowly came to life. The sky was streaked with pink and orange, the world bathed in the soft glow of morning. But even as the sun rose, Emma felt like the shadows of the night still clung to her heart. Lily was already awake, standing at the window, her gaze fixed on the horizon. Emma watched her for a moment, wondering what was going through her daughter's mind. Did Lily feel the same fear that Emma did? Or was she ready for the path that lay ahead, ready to embrace the power that flowed through her veins? "Mom," Lily said softly, without turning around. "He's here." Emma's heart skipped a beat. She had barely heard the sound of footsteps approaching, but there, in the stillness of the morning, the Alpha appeared in the doorway, his presence commanding, his energy impossible to ignore. He looked different today, calmer, more composed. But there was still a wildness in him, an untamed force that seemed to pulse beneath his skin. "We begin now," he said, his voice low but filled with authority. Lily turned, her eyes meeting Emma's with a quiet certainty. "I'm ready." Emma swallowed hard. She wanted to say something, anything, that would ease the fear in her heart. But no words came. She could only nod, her emotions choking her. The Alpha motioned for them to follow him, and they stepped outside, into the cool morning air. The world felt different now, as though the very earth beneath their feet was holding its breath. There was an energy in the air, a tension that made everything seem more vivid, more alive. The trees rustled in the breeze, their leaves shimmering with a faint, almost magical glow. "Lily," the Alpha said, his voice soft but filled with power. "Today, you will learn to harness the strength inside you. It is not enough to simply have power, you must learn to control it. Only then can you truly become the Alpha you were born to be." Lily nodded, her posture straight, her eyes focused and determined. Emma couldn't help but feel a sense of awe watching her daughter. She was no longer the small, frightened child who had once needed her every moment. Now, Lily was standing on the precipice of something much greater. The Alpha stepped forward, moving with an easy grace that belied his size. "The first lesson is simple, feel the power within you. Let it rise. Let it flow through you. Don't resist it." Lily closed her eyes, her face serene, her breathing steady. Emma watched as the air around her seemed to shift, the very space vibrating with energy. It was as if the world itself was bending to Lily's will. Emma felt it too, the power that swirled around them, invisible but undeniable. It was in the wind, in the trees, in the ground beneath her feet. It was in her daughter. And then, Lily's eyes snapped open, and Emma saw it, the light in her eyes, burning brighter than ever before. It wasn't just the soft glow that had come from within her in moments of emotion, this was something else. This was the full force of her transformation, the raw power of the alpha blood that flowed through her veins. The alpha watched closely, his eyes gleaming with approval. Good. You're beginning to understand. Now, feel the earth beneath you. Connect with it. Let it guide you. Lily knelt down, placing her hands on the ground, and for a moment, there was a stillness in the air, as though the world itself was holding its breath. And then, with a sudden, fierce movement, Lily rose to her feet, her body alight with energy. She was no longer a child, she was something else. Something powerful. The ground beneath her seemed to respond, shifting, trembling with the energy that surged through her. Emma gasped, her heart in her throat. Was this really her daughter? Was this the same little girl who had clung to her for comfort, for protection? Lily turned to her, her eyes full of strength. I'm ready, Mom. The alpha stepped forward again, his face unreadable, his expression hardening. This is just the beginning. There is much to learn. And the danger will only grow as you begin to understand the full scope of your power. But you are not alone. We will face it together. Emma's heart swelled with both fear and pride. She had always known her daughter was special, but this was something far beyond what she had ever imagined. She reached out and took Lily's hand, squeezing it tightly. I will always be here for you. No matter what. And in that moment, Emma knew that whatever lay ahead, they would face it together. The world may have been about to change in ways they couldn't even comprehend, but Emma would stand by her daughter, no matter what came their way. As the morning sun climbed higher in the sky, the alpha began to guide Lily further, teaching her how to focus her strength, how to tap into the power that had always been a part of her. But Emma knew, deep in her soul, that the road ahead would not be easy. The world was about to learn who Lily truly was, and that meant danger, challenges, and tests of strength that they would have to face head-on. But for now, as the wind whispered through the trees and the sun warmed their backs, Emma allowed herself one moment of peace, one moment where everything seemed possible. Days passed, each one blending into the next as Emma watched her daughter transform before her eyes. The lessons with the alpha were grueling, pushing Lily to the limits of her strength and beyond. There were moments when Emma could see the exhaustion in Lily's eyes, when her body trembled with the weight of the power she was learning to control. But through it all, Lily was determined. She was learning, faster than Emma could have ever imagined. Emma had always known her daughter was special, but now, it was becoming painfully clear that this power came with a cost. The more Lily learned, the more Emma felt the distance between them grow. The girl who had once relied on her for everything was now stepping into a world that Emma could hardly understand, a world where danger lurked at every corner and trust was earned through strength, not love. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon and painted the sky in hues of red and gold, Emma sat by the fire, her thoughts heavy. Lily was out there, training with the alpha. The fire crackled in front of her, its warmth doing little to calm the chill in her bones. The alpha had been patient, but even he couldn't shield Lily from the harsh reality of the power inside her. Emma feared that the deeper Lily went into this world, the more she would lose herself. But then, as if summoned by her thoughts, the alpha appeared in the doorway, his tall, imposing figure blocking the light from the outside. His expression was grave. "It's time," he said, his voice low and steady. Emma stood, her heart racing. Time for what? The alpha's gaze shifted toward the woods, his amber eyes glowing faintly in the dim light. The first test. The world will not wait for Lily to be ready. She has to prove herself. Emma's blood ran cold. A test, she whispered. But she's still so young. She's not ready for. The world doesn't care if she's ready, the alpha interrupted, his voice sharp, the urgency in his words clear. The danger is real, Emma. It's already here. And it's only going to get worse. Tonight, Lily must face it. Emma's heart pounded in her chest as she looked toward the woods. She could feel the weight of his words sinking in. It wasn't just about Lily's training anymore. It was about survival. Without waiting for her to respond, the Alpha turned and walked out into the darkness, his form disappearing into the night. Emma hesitated, torn between staying behind to protect her daughter and following them into the unknown. But then she heard Lily's voice, a soft whisper carried on the wind. "I'm ready, Mom." Emma's heart clenched. It was the same confident tone she had heard from her daughter over the past few days. But this time, there was something different in her voice. Something that made Emma feel both proud and afraid. Taking a deep breath, Emma followed the Alpha into the woods. The air was thick with the scent of pine, and the world seemed quieter here, as if it was holding its breath. The night felt alive, crackling with unseen energy, the moon casting long shadows over the ground. They came to a clearing, where the Alpha stopped and turned to face Lily. Emma caught up, standing behind her daughter, her heart racing. "You know what you must do," the Alpha said, his voice steady but filled with the weight of his expectations. Lily nodded, her eyes glowing softly in the dark. "I do." Emma didn't understand what was happening, but she could see the seriousness in the Alpha's expression. This was no simple training exercise. Something was about to happen that would test Lily in ways she couldn't prepare for. The Alpha raised his hand, and in the distance, Emma heard the unmistakable sound of rustling, movement from the trees. It was too quiet at first, but then the sounds grew louder, more distinct. The wind shifted, carrying the scent of something unfamiliar. Something wild. And then they appeared, figures moving quickly through the trees, shadows flickering in the darkness. Emma's breath caught in her throat as she realized they weren't just animals. They were people, shifters, like the Alpha. But there was something different about them. Their eyes glowed a sickly green, and their movements were erratic, as if they were no longer in control of their own bodies. "They're rogue," the Alpha said quietly, his voice laced with anger. "Shifters who have lost control, who no longer follow the code. They're dangerous, and they've been hunting us. Tonight, they will test you." Lily took a step forward, her stance strong and unwavering. "I'm ready," she said again, her voice calm. The rogue shifters advanced, their eyes locked on Lily, a deep hunger in their gaze. Emma's heart skipped a beat. These weren't just any shifters, these were predators, driven by instinct, by chaos. And Lily, her daughter, was standing in front of them, alone. The Alpha stepped aside, his eyes never leaving Lily. "You will face them, Lily. But remember, the power is yours to control. You must not let them dictate your actions. Trust yourself." Lily took a deep breath, her eyes flashing with determination. And then, before Emma could even react, her daughter moved. It happened in an instant. Lily's body shifted, her muscles expanding, her senses sharpening. Her face elongated, her eyes burning with an intensity that Emma had never seen before. It was as if she was no longer human. No longer the little girl Emma had raised. She was something more. A creature of the night, a warrior born of blood and power. The rogue shifters hesitated for just a moment, surprised by Lily's transformation. But only for a moment. Then, with a terrifying roar, they charged. Lily moved like lightning, her body twisting, her claws slashing through the air with a speed that took Emma's breath away. It was as if she had become one with the night, with the very shadows around her. She fought with precision, her instincts guiding her every move, as the rogue shifters lunged toward her. Emma watched in awe and fear as her daughter faced down the rogue shifters, her body flowing with a grace and power that only the Alpha could have taught her. But there was something more, something that made Emma's heart swell with pride. Lily wasn't just using her power. She was controlling it. She was fighting with strength, but also with wisdom. In the end, it was over quickly. The rogue shifters, unable to match Lily's control, were defeated. They stumbled back, retreating into the woods, leaving the clearing silent once again. Lily stood alone in the center of the clearing, breathing heavily but standing tall. Her eyes had returned to their normal glow, the wild energy slowly fading as she regained control. The Alpha stepped forward, his expression unreadable. "You've passed the test. You have the strength, the control. But the war is just beginning." Emma rushed to Lily's side, her heart pounding in her chest. Her daughter, her little girl, had done it. She had faced the danger, embraced the power, and come out victorious. But as the Alpha's words echoed in her mind, Emma knew this was only the beginning. The true battle was still to come. The road ahead. The clearing was eerily quiet now, the echoes of the battle slowly fading into the darkness. The rogue shifters had retreated, defeated and broken, but the tension in the air remained. Lily stood in the center of the clearing, her body trembling slightly from the effort, her claws still extended as her breathing began to slow. The light from the moon bathed her in an ethereal glow, casting shadows that seemed to stretch out into the night. Emma stepped forward, her heart still pounding in her chest. Her eyes were wide with a mix of awe and fear as she looked at her daughter, who was now standing as if nothing had happened, strong, unshaken, and powerful. She had faced the threat and emerged victorious. Emma had always known Lily was special, but now, standing before her, her daughter had become something else entirely. Something more than human, more than a girl she had raised. "Lily," Emma whispered, her voice trembling with emotion. She reached out for her, her hand trembling. You were amazing. I don't know what to say. You've grown so much, so fast." Lily turned to her, her expression softening. Her eyes still held that strange, otherworldly glow, but there was also a warmth in them that only Emma could see. "I couldn't have done it without you, Mom," Lily said, her voice steady but filled with the kind of strength Emma had never heard before. "I was ready because you believed in me. You always did." Emma's chest tightened at her daughter's words. She had always believed in Lily, but this new world they were stepping into, it was terrifying. She had never asked for this, never wanted this kind of life for her daughter. Yet here they were, standing at the crossroads of something far bigger than either of them could have imagined. The Alpha, who had been watching from the edge of the clearing, stepped forward. His amber eyes glowed softly in the dim light, his expression unreadable. "You did well, Lily," he said, his voice deep and resonant. "But this is only the beginning. The rogue shifters were just a warning, a test. The real challenges are still to come. There are others out there, other alphas, other shifters, who will want to test you, to challenge you for dominance. This world, the world of the shifters, is not kind. And you will face trials that will push you beyond your limits." Emma's heart skipped a beat at the Alpha's words. Trials? What kind of trials? What kind of world was Lily stepping into? And more importantly, what would happen if Lily wasn't ready? The Alpha seemed to sense her worry. He turned his gaze to Emma, his expression softening just a little. "Don't be afraid," he said, his voice almost kind. "Lily is strong. Stronger than you realize. But she needs guidance. She needs to understand her place in this world. She needs to learn the old ways, the ways of the Alpha, so that she can lead. This isn't just about strength, Emma. It's about leadership. It's about balance." Emma swallowed, her mind racing. Balance? But she's just a child, Alpha. She shouldn't have to carry this weight. This world, it's too much for her. The Alpha's eyes flickered with understanding, but there was also a hint of something deeper, something older. "I understand your fear, Emma. Believe me, I do. But this world will not wait for her to grow up. It is in her blood. She has the potential to be something extraordinary. But it will take time, and it will take sacrifice. She must learn to control the power inside her. And she must learn to lead with wisdom and strength. The Alpha nodded approvingly, his expression shifting into something resembling pride. Then we begin. The training will continue. But this time, we focus on the ancient ways, the ways of leadership, of controlling the pack, of understanding the balance between the shifter world and the human world. There are many who will try to manipulate her power. But if she can learn to master herself, she will be the strongest of us all. Emma stood silently, watching as her daughter's fate began to unfold before her. There was no turning back now. The world they had once known was gone, replaced by something far more dangerous, far more complex. But one thing was certain, Emma would stand by Lily, no matter what. She would protect her, guide her, and help her find her way in a world that was as wild and unpredictable as the forces that now ran through her daughter's veins. The Alpha turned, his gaze flicking to the woods once more. "We must go," he said, his tone sharp. "The world is waiting, and there are others who are watching." As the Alpha and Lily began to walk toward the edge of the clearing, Emma followed, her heart heavy but resolute. She didn't know what the future held, or what dangers awaited them. But for the first time since this all began, Emma felt something more than fear. She felt pride. She felt hope. Her daughter was becoming something extraordinary, and no matter what trials lay ahead, Emma would stand with her every step of the way. The road ahead would be long, filled with challenges and dangers, but it was one they would face together. The days that followed were filled with intense training, the kind that stretched both Lily and Emma to their limits. Under the Alpha's guidance, Lily learned the ways of the shifters, how to control her transformations, how to use her heightened senses, and how to harness the power that flowed through her veins. Each day was a new challenge, and Emma could see the toll it took on her daughter. The physical strain, the mental exhaustion, it was a lot for someone so young. But Lily didn't falter. With each passing day, she became more attuned to the power within her, her connection to the earth, the wind, and the creatures of the forest. Emma watched as Lily's confidence grew, as her daughter began to embrace her new reality, even as it pulled her further away from the life they had once known. But it wasn't just Lily who was changing. Emma, too, felt the shift. She had always been the protector, the one who shielded her daughter from the world. But now, she realized, the world had come crashing in on them. There was no more hiding. There was no more pretending that things were normal. Her daughter was becoming a force of nature, and Emma had to come to terms with that reality. One afternoon, as the sun hung low in the sky, casting long shadows across the forest floor, the Alpha gathered them in the clearing once again. His expression was serious, his amber eyes narrowed in thought. "The time has come," he said, his voice heavy with the weight of what was to come. "The pack is restless. They sense Lily's power. They will challenge her to prove herself. There are those who will want to test her, to see if she's truly worthy of leading." Emma's heart skipped a beat. A challenge? But, she's not ready for. The Alpha held up a hand, silencing her. She is ready. It's part of the tradition. Every Alpha must prove their strength and leadership. And Lily's time has come. Lily, standing beside Emma, seemed unfazed by the news. Her eyes were steady, her expression calm. "I'm ready," she said simply. The Alpha turned his gaze to her, a flicker of approval in his eyes. "Good. The challenge will be held tomorrow at dawn. You will face the pack, and they will decide if you are worthy to lead. But understand this, it will not be easy. These are not just trials of strength. They will test your mind, your spirit, and your ability to lead. Do not underestimate them." Emma's stomach twisted with anxiety. The Alpha had said that Lily was ready, but Emma wasn't so sure. Her daughter was strong, yes. But leading a pack? That was a different kind of strength. It wasn't just about power. It was about wisdom, about making decisions that affected others, about commanding respect. And Emma wasn't sure Lily was ready for that. But she could see something in Lily's eyes, a quiet confidence that Emma couldn't deny. It was a strength Emma had never seen before, a strength that came not just from power, but from something deeper, something unshakable. The Alpha turned and began to walk toward the edge of the clearing. "Prepare yourselves. Tomorrow, we begin." The next morning, before the sun had fully risen, Emma and Lily made their way to the clearing. The air was thick with anticipation, the earth beneath their feet heavy with the weight of what was to come. The Alpha stood at the edge of the clearing, waiting, his form imposing and steady. Around them, members of the pack had gathered, shifters, both human and wolf, each one sizing up Lily, their eyes filled with curiosity, suspicion, and hunger. Emma's heart hammered in her chest as she looked around. The pack was formidable, a group of seasoned warriors who had known the ways of the shifters for years. They were not kind. They did not show mercy. And they were about to judge Lily. The Alpha stepped forward, his voice booming across the clearing. "This is the challenge. Each of you will test Lily. Physically, mentally, and emotionally. You will push her to her limits. And in the end, she will decide if she is ready to lead." Lily stepped forward, standing tall, her eyes flashing with determination. Emma felt a pang of fear and pride in her chest. This was her daughter, her little girl, about to face a world she could never have imagined. The first test was physical. A large, muscular shifter stepped forward, his eyes narrowed in challenge. Without a word, he shifted into his wolf form, his massive frame growing larger and more menacing. He snarled at Lily, his teeth bared, and lunged. Lily didn't hesitate. She shifted in an instant, her body flowing like liquid, her form growing and changing until she, too, was a wolf, a creature of both beauty and ferocity. The two wolves collided in a blur of motion, their claws slashing, their teeth snapping. Lily's movements were fluid, her body light and fast. She dodged the shifter's attacks, countering with quick, precise strikes. For a moment, it seemed as though the battle could go either way. But Lily's control was evident. She wasn't just fighting, she was thinking. She was leading the fight. With a swift move, Lily knocked the larger wolf off balance, sending him crashing to the ground. She stood over him, her gaze cold and unyielding. The Alpha nodded in approval. "Well done." The second test was mental. A female shifter stepped forward, her eyes sharp with intelligence. She spoke of strategy, of the ways of leadership. She asked Lily questions about the pack, about their needs, their struggles, and the balance between strength and compassion. The test wasn't just about knowledge, it was about understanding. Lily listened carefully, her answers thoughtful, measured. She spoke of fairness, of unity, and of leading with both strength and compassion. The female shifter nodded, a small smile tugging at the corner of her lips. "You understand." And then, the final test, the emotional test. The pack leader, an older shifter with a weathered face and cold eyes, stepped forward. He was the most challenging of all, the one who had been skeptical of Lily from the beginning. He looked her over, his eyes cold and judging. "Leadership is about more than strength and wisdom," he said, his voice gruff. "It's about sacrifice. It's about making hard choices. What will you sacrifice to lead this pack?" Lily's eyes narrowed, but she didn't respond immediately. Instead, she looked at Emma, standing in the back of the clearing. Emma's heart skipped a beat. She knew what Lily was thinking. She knew the answer. Lily's voice was steady, yet filled with an emotion that Emma hadn't expected. "I will sacrifice anything, even myself, if it means protecting this pack. But I will never sacrifice love. I will never sacrifice who I am, or who we are, for power." The pack leader's eyes softened, just for a moment, before he stepped back. You have your answer. The Alpha nodded, his gaze sweeping across the pack. She has passed the tests. Emma felt a flood of emotions, relief, pride, and a deep sense of awe. Her daughter had done it. She had faced the pack and proved that she was worthy. But more than that, Lily had proven that she understood the true meaning of leadership. It wasn't about being the strongest. It wasn't about dominating others. It was about protecting them, guiding them, and knowing when to make sacrifices for the greater good. The Alpha stepped forward, placing a hand on Lily's shoulder. You are ready. And in that moment, Emma knew, this was just the beginning of a new chapter. The road ahead would be filled with challenges, but Lily was no longer the little girl she had once known. She was a leader. And together, they would face whatever the future held. The pack had accepted Lily. The tests were over, but the journey was far from finished. In the days following her trial, Emma could feel the shift in the air, the growing sense of responsibility that weighed on her daughter's shoulders. Lily had proven herself to the pack, but Emma knew that the hardest challenges were yet to come. Leadership was never easy, especially not in a world as brutal and unforgiving as the one they now found themselves in. Despite the Alpha's assurances, Emma couldn't shake the feeling that something bigger was looming on the horizon. It wasn't just the rogue shifters who posed a threat, it was the world itself, a world that would never accept a young, untested leader, especially not one with the power Lily possessed. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon and painted the sky in shades of red and purple, Emma sat by the fire in their cabin, watching the flames dance. Her thoughts were heavy. Lily had changed so much, so quickly, that Emma could hardly recognize the girl she had raised. Her strength, her confidence, her connection to the pack, it all seemed so overwhelming. And yet, there was something about it that filled Emma with both pride and fear. Lily, now the Alpha's daughter, had started to take on more responsibility, making decisions for the pack and guiding the other shifters. She had a natural ability to lead, an innate understanding of the balance between power and compassion. But Emma could see the toll it was taking on her. Lily was growing stronger, but she was also growing more distant. Emma's heart ached as she watched her daughter, who had once relied on her for everything, begin to carve out her own path. The bond they shared was still strong, but Emma could sense that it was starting to stretch, pulled thin by the weight of the new world Lily was stepping into. Lily, Emma called softly, breaking the silence. Lily looked up from where she stood by the window, her eyes distant. She had been quiet lately, her mind clearly focused on the responsibilities that came with her new role. Come sit with me, Emma said gently, her voice soft but filled with the kind of warmth Lily had always known. We need to talk. Lily hesitated for a moment, but then she walked over, sitting down beside her mother. Emma could see the exhaustion in her eyes, the strain that had built up over the last few days. She had been pushed to her limits, and Emma knew that the pressure was starting to wear on her. I don't know if I'm ready for all this, Mom, Lily admitted quietly. Her voice was low, her words heavy with doubt. The pack, the responsibility, it's too much. I'm not sure I can handle it. Emma reached out, placing a hand on Lily's, offering comfort in the only way she knew how. You don't have to do it alone, she said softly. You have me, and you have the Alpha. You're stronger than you know, Lily. You're capable of more than I could have ever imagined. But you don't have to carry the weight of the world on your shoulders. We'll face it together. Lily looked at her, her eyes filled with uncertainty, but also a quiet gratitude. I know, she said, her voice barely a whisper. But I still feel so alone. Everyone expects so much from me. I don't know how to balance it all. Emma smiled softly, squeezing Lily's hand. You don't have to have all the answers right now. You're still learning. And it's okay to ask for help when you need it. You don't have to do this by yourself. Lily let out a deep sigh, resting her head on Emma's shoulder. I just want to be good enough. For the pack. For you. Emma wrapped her arm around Lily, holding her close. You're more than enough, Lily. You always have been. And you're becoming something extraordinary. But don't forget who you are. You're still my little girl. And I'm proud of you, no matter what. For a long moment, they sat in silence, the only sound the crackling of the fire. The weight of the world still hung over them, but in that quiet moment, Emma felt a sense of peace, a sense of connection. No matter how much the world had changed, no matter how powerful Lily had become, the bond they shared was unbreakable. The Alpha's voice broke the stillness, calling from the doorway. Lily, he said, his tone serious but respectful. There's something you need to see. A message from another pack. Lily stood, her expression shifting to one of resolve. She had come so far in such a short time, and Emma could see the leader within her beginning to emerge. She nodded to her mother before walking toward the door, her posture straight, her gaze focused. Emma watched as her daughter stepped into the night, the glow of the moon lighting her path. For a moment, Emma felt that familiar wave of protectiveness wash over her. She wanted to shield Lily from the world, to keep her safe from the dangers that lurked just beyond the horizon. But she knew, deep down, that Lily was ready to face whatever came next. She had proven herself, time and time again. And now, it was her time to lead. The pack was waiting for her, and Emma knew that this was just the beginning. There would be more challenges, more tests, more trials that would push Lily to her limits. But Emma had no doubt that her daughter would rise to meet them. The road ahead would be long, and the path would be uncertain. But whatever came their way, Emma would be there for Lily, just as she always had been. And together, they would face the darkness, and the light, of the world that was now theirs to navigate. The legacy of the Alpha. As the moon rose higher in the sky and the night deepened, Emma stood quietly by the fire, watching her daughter lead the pack, stepping confidently into the role she was destined to play. Emma knew the path ahead would be filled with challenges and difficult choices, but she had faith in Lily. The young girl she had raised, now a powerful leader, had found her strength, her voice, and her purpose. Lily had proven that strength isn't just about physical power. It's about the courage to embrace your true self, to lead with compassion, and to protect those you love. She had faced trials that would have broken others, yet she had emerged stronger, wiser, and more capable. Her journey had been about much more than mastering her powers. It had been about discovering her place in the world and standing firm in the face of fear and uncertainty. Emma knew that as much as Lily was becoming a leader in the shifter world, she was also still her daughter. A daughter who would need love, support, and guidance. Emma had learned that even the strongest of leaders can't walk the path alone. Sometimes, it's the connections we make, the relationships we cherish, and the love we give that give us the strength to face the hardest battles. In the end, the story of Lily was a story of growth, of finding one's place in a world that often feels overwhelming and uncertain. It was a story of discovering the power that lies within each of us, and the importance of never giving up, even when the journey seems impossible. Morals of the story. 1. Strength is more than power. True strength comes not just from physical abilities, but from emotional resilience, wisdom, and the ability to lead with compassion. 2. Embrace who you are. Learning to accept and understand yourself, including your weaknesses, is the first step toward realizing your true potential. 3. Leadership is about balance. Great leaders are not defined by domination but by their ability to guide, protect, and inspire others. Leadership requires understanding, empathy, and strength in the face of adversity. 4. Support and love are essential. Even the strongest leaders need the love and support of others to thrive. Family, friends, and mentors help us face challenges we couldn't face alone. 5. It's okay to ask for help. No one is meant to face everything alone. Don't be afraid to reach out for support when the journey gets difficult. 6. Growth is a journey, not a destination. Life is full of challenges, but every obstacle is an opportunity to grow stronger and wiser. Embrace the journey and keep moving forward, no matter how tough it gets. This marks the end of Lily's story, but her journey, and the lessons she learned, will live on. The road ahead will always be uncertain, but she is ready for whatever comes next. Feel free to let me know if you'd like any changes, or if there's something else you'd like to explore. Please like and subscribe to our channel. Please don't forget to tell us the country you are watching from.